Welcome back to Little English Studio, where we tell the powerful life journeys of history's greatest thinkers, dreamers, and rebels in clear and simple English, so you can learn English while learning about people who changed the world. Today, we bring you the dramatic, courageous, and tragic story of Giordano Bruno, the Italian philosopher who dared to imagine an infinite universe, full of countless worlds, centuries before modern science confirmed it. Bruno's life is one of bravery, rebellion, and sacrifice. He lived for truth, he died for truth, and his story continues to inspire us all. Giordano Bruno was born in 1548 in the small town of Nola, near Naples in Italy. His birth name was Filippo Bruno, and he was the son of a soldier. Nola was a vibrant place influenced by both Catholic traditions and Renaissance humanism, and young Filippo grew up in a world where religion was dominant, but new ideas were starting to bloom. From an early age, he showed an incredible memory and a restless curiosity. He could memorize texts quickly and had a fascination for philosophy, poetry, and the natural world. His teachers noticed his sharp mind, and it was clear that he was not an ordinary child. At the age of 15, Bruno entered the Dominican order in Naples, where he took the name Giordano after his tutor. The Dominicans were known for their strict religious training, but also for their library and their tradition of scholarship. Bruno studied theology, philosophy, logic, and the classics. At first, he seemed to be on the path of a devout Catholic monk, but soon his independent mind would push him far beyond the boundaries of church orthodoxy. As a young Dominican friar, Bruno was taught to revere Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas, the pillars of Catholic philosophy. But Bruno's restless spirit pushed him to read widely. He discovered works of Plato, the Neoplatonists, and even forbidden books by Erasmus and heretical thinkers. He was especially influenced by the writings of Copernicus, who proposed that the Earth revolved around the Sun, not the other way around. Bruno embraced this radical idea, but he did not stop there. He began to ask, if the Earth was just one planet orbiting one star, could there not be infinite stars, each with their own worlds? Could the universe be boundless, with countless planets and perhaps even countless beings? These thoughts were revolutionary and dangerous. In the Catholic world of the 16th century, questioning the Earth's central place in creation was heresy. Bruno also developed powerful techniques of memory, known as mnemonics, which fascinated many and gave him fame as a magician-like intellectual. He believed memory was not just about storing information, but about shaping the mind to connect with universal truths. But his growing independence also attracted suspicion. Bruno began criticizing the rigid dogmas of the Dominican order. He removed religious images from his cell, saying that worship should be directed only to God. He read books that were banned. By 1576 he was accused of heresy. Facing trial and punishment, Bruno fled Naples, leaving behind his Dominican robes forever. Bruno's life became that of a wandering scholar. For the next 15 years he traveled across Europe, moving from city to city, spreading his radical ideas, teaching, debating, and often making powerful friends, but also dangerous enemies. He first went to Geneva, the heart of Calvinism. At first he thought he might find freedom there, but he soon got into trouble again, this time for criticizing a respected Calvinist professor. Bruno could not be silent. His sharp tongue and fearless mind made him unwelcome. He left Geneva and moved through France, eventually reaching Paris. In Paris, Bruno began to gain fame. He impressed King Henry III of France with his extraordinary memory techniques and his bold philosophy. He lectured on logic, astronomy, and metaphysics. He published several books, including The Shadows of Ideas, where he explained his art of memory, and On the Signs of the Times. He also began writing dialogues in Italian, making philosophy accessible to a wider audience, not just Latin-trained scholars. By the 1580s, Bruno moved to England, where he taught at Oxford University. There he gave lectures on Copernicus and on his idea of an infinite universe. But Oxford scholars, conservative and Aristotelian, mocked him. They called him a fool and accused him of plagiarism. Bruno, in turn, mocked them as narrow-minded pedants. He made enemies in Oxford, but found support in the court of Queen Elizabeth I. He even wrote and published his most famous Italian dialogues in London, including On the Infinite Universe and Worlds, and The Expulsion of the Triumphant Beast. In On the Infinite Universe and Worlds, Bruno argued that the universe had no center, that stars were suns like ours, and that each could host its own planets and perhaps life. This was centuries ahead of its time and remains one of the most visionary works in the history of philosophy. After England, Bruno traveled through Germany. He lectured in Wittenberg, Prague, and other cities, moving restlessly. Wherever he went, he attracted both admiration and hostility. His ideas were too bold for the conservative universities, yet too fascinating to be ignored. In 1591, Bruno made a fateful decision. He accepted an invitation from a nobleman in Venice, Giovanni Mosnego, who wanted to learn the secrets of Bruno's memory techniques. Bruno thought he might finally find stability in Italy, but Venice, under the watchful eyes of the Inquisition, was not safe. Mosnego soon grew suspicious and frustrated with Bruno. Instead of only teaching memory, Bruno spoke of philosophy, infinity, and heretical ideas. In 1592, Mosnego betrayed him, denouncing him to the Venetian Inquisition. Bruno was arrested and interrogated. At first, Bruno defended himself skillfully, claiming he was a philosopher, not a heretic. But in 1593, the case was transferred to Rome, the heart of the Catholic Church. There, Bruno was imprisoned for 7 long years. Bruno's trial was one of the most famous in history. The Inquisition accused him of numerous heresies, denying the Trinity, denying the divinity of Christ, believing in reincarnation, practicing magic, and above all, teaching that the universe was infinite and that stars were other suns. Bruno refused to recant. For 7 years he debated, argued, and resisted pressure. His courage was remarkable. He knew that to continue would mean death, yet he chose truth over survival. In January 1600, the Inquisition condemned him as a heretic. He was handed over to the secular authorities, who sentenced him to death. When he heard his sentence, Bruno is said to have replied, "Perhaps you who pronounce this sentence are more afraid than I who receive it." On February 17, 1600, Giordano Bruno was led to the Campo de' Fiori in Rome. His tongue was clamped so he could not speak to the crowd. He was stripped naked, tied to a stake, and burned alive. Witnesses said he endured his fate with dignity, refusing to betray his convictions. Bruno died at the age of 52, but his ideas survived. For centuries after his death, Bruno was remembered more as a heretic than a hero. But in the 19th and 20th centuries, his reputation changed. He came to be seen as a martyr for free thought, a visionary who anticipated modern cosmology. His idea of an infinite universe filled with countless worlds inspired scientists, philosophers, and writers. Today, astronomers searching for exoplanets and life beyond Earth are, in a sense, fulfilling Bruno's dream. A statue of Bruno now stands in the very square where he was executed, reminding the world of the cost of free thought. And that is the incredible life of Giordano Bruno, the monk who became a rebel, the philosopher who dreamed of infinite worlds, and the martyr who died for truth. His story teaches us that progress often requires courage, that freedom of thought can be dangerous but also transformative, and that the universe is far bigger than we can imagine. At Little English Studio, we believe stories like Bruno's are not just history, they are lessons for today, reminding us to think freely, to question, and to dream of new worlds.